A powerful storm brought heavy downpours, triggered deadly flash flooding all across Kentucky. Governor Andy Beshear says 8 people are confirmed dead after the system moved through last night and into today. 3 people died in Hart County. 1 man in a crash and a woman and a child were actually swept away in floodwaters. Another man died in a crash in Nelson County. 2 men died from flooding in eastern Kentucky and Pike County. A woman died in Washington County. Another man accidentally drowned in Clay County, and the state expects those numbers to rise. Ahead of those deadly storms, Governor Andy Beshear declared a state of emergency in Kentucky on Friday. Yesterday, the governor requested and President Donald Trump granted an emergency disaster declaration for the state. Southeastern counties were some of the hardest hit with flooding in Kentucky. This video shows conditions in Vergy. That's near the Kentucky-Virginia border. You can see flooding there covered the entire road, actually preventing some travel for people. A little north of that, in Pikeville, eastern Kentucky, drone video shows more intense flooding with buildings in portions of that town underwater. Governor Beshear addressed the destruction this afternoon.
Pike County's gotten hit really, really, really hard. Talked to Ray Jones, their county judge executive, yesterday. We got a lot of resources there and helping, but they're also doing a great job with their local emergency management. Hundreds of rescues have occurred in Pike County alone. They didn't get the worst of 2022. It appears that they're getting the worst of this 2025 flooding.
And people are still struggling tonight. Just west of Pikeville in Perry County, there was flash flooding near homes there. Road crews are out now diverting drivers away from those flooded roads. You can see cars submerged. Some people were seen trying to move to higher ground as the water came up. It is a similar scene in Letcher County. Streets are overflowing, cutting off travel to those living in that area. Many of the buildings are also flooded. It even prompted a nursing home to evacuate to keep its residents safe. Luckily, staff there say everyone is safe tonight and out of harm's way.
Everybody's taken care of. They have the meds they need, the oxygen, the beds, the warmth. They don't have to worry about food and being scared. They're in a safe place, so.
In Hopkinsville, just north of Clarksville, Tennessee, emergency rescue crews have been responding to drivers stuck in high waters throughout the day. As you can see from pictures, the floodwaters are almost up to the windows of most vehicles in that city. And in Washington County, rescue crews were using rafts to help stranded drivers due to the flooding. Officials say 3 adults and 1 child were found stranded near Campground and Bloomfield Roads in Springfield. Luckily, emergency responders were able to get all 4 of them back to land safely. And Governor Beshear says there have been more than 1,000 water rescues, with more expected over the next 24 hours. FEMA is now helping out with those efforts. And the governor also launched that Team Kentucky Storm Relief Fund, allowing folks a chance to donate money to help with all of these relief efforts that will continue throughout this week. The focus now will be to help those impacted by this disastrous flooding.
This emergency phase we're in is going to last at least a couple more days. That's the type of event we're dealing with, and we're going to be actively dealing with this flood for probably the next week in different parts of at least getting things cleaned up.
And right now, there are 19 active state swiftwater teams operating in eastern Kentucky, and 146 soldiers and guardsmen from the Kentucky National Guard responding to emergencies across the Commonwealth.
Jewish leaders have warned Australia could be sleepwalking into a Nazi nightmare after video emerged of white supremacists holding a boot camp at Elwood Beach. The group, which included children, ran military-style drills in an exercise that's caused anger and outrage. Laura Turner has this exclusive report.
A relaxed afternoon at Elwood Beach, parkgoers seemingly unaware that next to them are white supremacists in training, the public display angering the Jewish community.
These losers came and did a workout in the park and then tried to play tough by putting up a racist symbol.
Among them, Jacob Hersand, the man jailed last year for performing the now illegal Nazi salute. The group, including a male child, performing boxing drills, and when the rain clears, their female supporters join for a chat.
These evil men are trying to build a Hitler Youth in the heart of Melbourne. Should frighten and concern every Australian.
What the group was doing isn't illegal. There appeared to be no swastikas on display and no Nazi salutes being performed. Even so, some Jewish leaders say the mere existence of the group itself should be outlawed.
Any movement that celebrates, glorifies, or participates in the celebration of neo-Nazism and white supremacy.
We introduce laws to outlaw the Nazi salute, and if we need to increase the number of symbols that are outlawed so that they can get the clearest of message that silly flag that they tried to hold up in the middle of our beautiful suburb isn't acceptable, then so be it.
The state government was scathing.
It's a blatant, outrageous display publicly to gain attention.
But Dr Abramovich warns this could be more than that.
If Australia doesn't wake up to this ticking time bomb, we will wake up and realise that something terrible has happened.
Laura Turner, 9 News.
Marco Rubio has made his first official visit to Israel as Secretary of State. The purpose of his meeting with Netanyahu was clear. At the top of the agenda, Trump's plan for Gaza.
Secretary Rubio and I discussed President Trump's bold vision for Gaza's future, how we can work together to ensure that that future becomes a reality.
Both Netanyahu and Rubio praised Trump's vision. Earlier this month, the president proposed to clear out Gaza and create what he called a Riviera of the Middle East, a plan which would involve the forced displacement of millions of Palestinians and could amount to ethnic cleansing, according to the UN. During the press conference, Rubio also echoed Trump's desire to wipe out Hamas from the region.
Hamas cannot continue as a military or government force. And frankly, as long as it stands as a force that can govern or as a force that can administer or as a force that can threaten by use of violence, peace becomes impossible. They must be eliminated. They must be eradicated.
The two allies also reiterated their concerns about Iran.
Behind every terrorist group, behind every act of violence, behind every destabilizing activity, behind everything that threatens peace and stability for the millions of people who call this region home, is Iran.
Rubio's visit coincided with the arrival of heavy bombs from the United States. The munitions were sent after Trump lifted a hold on the deliveries. Former President Joe Biden had initially restricted the shipment of the 2,000-pound bombs after voicing concern that they could be used indiscriminately in densely populated areas of Gaza.
Now, let's hear from Nick Holdsworth in Berlin.
Well, Macron has reportedly invited NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte, the leaders of Germany, Italy, the UK and Poland to Paris tomorrow, Monday, for an emergency meeting to work out how Europe can respond to what's going on. The idea that Europe is going to be excluded from talks to reach an agreement over the end of the war between Russia and Ukraine has caused extreme alarm in European capitals. We even have the Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski attributing to Donald Trump attributes which are normally attributed to the Russians, saying that President Trump has a method of operating which the Russians call razvedka boyem, reconnaissance through battle. You push, you see what happens, and then you change your position, and we need to respond to that. So basically, the Europeans feel that they're on a back foot. There's this suggestion that there are going to be some initial planning talks in Saudi Arabia this coming week between Russia and the US, with Marco Rubio leading the US delegation. Marco Rubio has also talked on the telephone last night with his counterpart in Moscow, Sergei Lavrov. And indeed, Volodymyr Zelensky has already said that the Ukrainians apparently haven't been invited to those talks. It's still a little bit unclear what's going on. But the idea that an agreement could be made over the heads of the Europeans, even at the same time that the Americans have sent a letter around European capitals asking European countries what troops they could contribute to a peacekeeping force in Ukraine, that has really set the cat amongst the pigeons. And there's really shock in Europe at the moment. The German Foreign Minister, Annalena Baerbock, has said that this is a moment of truth for the world and that we really need to decide whose side we're on. Are we on the side of freedom and democracy, or are we rooting for the other side? seems to be a fairly thinly veiled suggestion that Donald Trump's team is rooting for the other side.
Moving along, we're trying to get a peace with Russia, Ukraine, and we're working very hard on it. I think he wants to stop fighting. They have a big, powerful machine, you understand that. Because if he's going to go on, that would have been a big problem for us. And that would have caused me a big problem, because you just can't let that happen. I think he wants to end it, and they want to end it fast. Both of them, and Zelensky wants to end it too.
Do you expect Zelensky to be involved in these conversations? What will his role be?
Yeah, I do. He will be involved.
vez que eu tô vendo isso aqui, hein? Se liga nessa nuvem. Olha isso. Colorida.
right, Patrick, that's going to be what we believe to be the tornado here in Columbia. You're looking back toward between Broad Street and Church Street around East Avenue. Law enforcement is reporting that there is some kind of
Вот такая карусель на Тихвинке. Запрыгнуть бы туда, покататься, покрутиться.
A terrifying and very unusual scene for Southern California, the moment a tornado passed through Oxnard, ripping the roof and carport from this trailer home community. It happened Thursday, hitting the Ocean Air mobile home community and neighboring Country Club mobile estates. About a dozen homes damaged in the tornado's wake.
All of a sudden, it's like the sky opened up. The rain just gushed down. You could hear the wind pick up. The coach started shaking, and I looked to my right and something flew by. It was huge and white, realizing that it was the porch awning.
I wasn't expecting to see the roof off, the awnings, broken and missing. and it was just crazy. I don't have house or home insurance for anything just because I couldn't afford it.